everyone, welcome to Chalchitra Talks. My name is Vaani, and in this episode, I want to talk to you about Mouse by Art Spiegelman. There are two parts of Mouse, Mouse 1, Mouse 2, and its second part is the only graphic novel to have won the Pulitzer Prize. It did so in 1991 under a special category because there is no such category that's dedicated otherwise to graphic novels. Mouse is not just a story about Holocaust. It's the story of how Art Spiegelman's father survived Holocaust. And the reason why this graphic novel is still so relevant is primarily because it shows you how traumatic Holocaust can be. One thing that stood out for me was how past makes its way into the present and eventually into the future. Art Spiegelman has shown through this graphic novel that events like Holocaust not just affect the people who witnessed it, survived it, but also their children. He talks about how frugal his father is, and you feel his irritation and his agitation towards why his father has to stoop low and carry a coil that's lying on the road home. But the more you see, the more you go into the novel, you realize why he is so frugal, why he makes a big deal out of small things that should not amount to anything. And you see how every individual, therefore, has a story to share. There's another thing that I really liked about the book, and this is something you'll realize if you start imagining real people in place of all the animals that you see in the book. Art Spiegelman has used mice to portray Jews, cats to portray Germans, Poles as pigs, Americans as dogs, and some few animals as well. And you don't realize how much you're able to distance yourself from the pain unless you start imagining real people there. At the end of the book, there is a photograph of Art Spiegelman's father. And that is when this pain hits you home for the first time and you realize, oh, this is real. Because until then, even though you were able to sympathize, you weren't able to truly empathize with whatever is happening in the book. And Art Spiegelman has rightly done it to ease your journey through this book. There is a beautiful video on YouTube that Nerdwriter made on his favorite comic book, and he talks about Art Spiegelman's Mouse. And he shows you how small things are brilliantly portrayed in the book. He talks about the brilliant use of panels that carries you to the present, to the past, and whatever uneasiness remains in between. There's another book that Art Spiegelman recently launched, I think. It's called Meta Mouse, and it talks about how this book came into being. He thought it will be a 2-year project, but it eventually turned out to be a 13-year project. And sometimes it would get so heavy for him that he'll have to take breaks and take up some light work in between them because it just would get so heavy. Spiegelman has portrayed his relationship with his father in Mouse. And therefore, it's not just a book about Holocaust, like I said. It's also a book about a lot of other things. It talks about the nuance of a relationship that you share with a survivor. It talks about the small things that change in a person after they've witnessed something like Holocaust. And it also talks about the nightmares people go through and how their interactions change with people around them. So read this book not just because you want to learn more about Holocaust, but also read this book because you'll experience a compelling story about survivor's guilt, how you feel terrible even when you survive. This is a brilliant story about redemption, about an experience that will probably change your life. Mouse still remains very relevant because it is an important story. This is a story you can go back to time and again and just power up your empathy. Because this is something that the world needs today. And a better understanding of how people change and what people go through will probably help you get there. So read Mouse because it is a brilliant, brilliant graphic novel. It just does not teach you about Holocaust and everything, but upon observing it much closely, you'll realize how each picture has a story to tell. Each panel that the novel has a brilliant tale to end, from the tattoos and the images and the souvenirs to the small actions that Art Spiegelman has shown and added to his characters. So I hope you liked my recommendation. I hope you pick it up. And if you have already finished reading Mouse, please write to us on chalchitrabookclub@gmail.com, and we'll be so happy to invite you for the discussion stream that we have on Thursday. And we're also reading Watchmen right now, so do catch up on that. And before I go, I want to tell you that you can now support us on YouTube community. You can become a patron And we have carefully divided our patrons into three different categories: Goodfellas, Gladiators, and Godfathers. Godfathers are at the top. They get a lot of perks along with their status because we'll treat them like godfathers. They get to be members of our exclusive WhatsApp groups, which are dedicated to books, music, and films. They also get access to a lot of insider information, which is not revealed to a lot of people. And they also get to be a part of our streams. And we also host monthly town hall sessions with them. So if you like our work, do support us. Do become a patron, especially a godfather. And I will be back with another recommendation for you in my next video. And take care.